Good morning and welcome to the DSHS Division of Vocational Rehab Recruitment Panel Discussion webinar. My name is Anita McGuire, and today I will be serving as the facilitator of this webinar. We are so grateful to have you, our tribal partners, stakeholders, and clients on this journey with us to find the best possible director of the DSHS Division of Vocational Rehab. Today, we have invited a panel of experts from within the vocational rehabilitation community and DVR customers to represent the diverse clientele served by DVR to speak to the survey questions you voted on over the last few weeks. The answers to these questions will help the interview panel charged with selecting our top candidate to understand what skills and values you are looking for in a DVR director. I'd like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves now. Tammy Bowen, I would like to start with you. Can you please tell us the organization you represent and why you agreed to be on our panel?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tammy Bowen. I work for Work Opportunities as an advocacy specialist. The reason why I agreed to be on this panel is because I was also having a consumer of DVR as well as I used to be an employment consultant for providers, and I worked with DVR directly to my clients as well. So I have a diverse background. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, let's move on to Erin Dickinson. Erin, who are you representing and why did you agree to be on the panel today?
So I'm Aaron Dixon, and I am the Executive Director of the Community Employment Alliance, and we represent 41 CRPs, agencies that provide supported employment across Washington State, the vast majority of which provide DVR services. And also, just from, kind of my own personal perspective, previous to my current job, I worked at an agency that provided DVR services and have provided, I believe, every DVR service at one time or another. So, I have that background that I can bring. And I also have both my sister and my partner's brother who have accessed DVR services in the last couple years as well, and have gotten to see some of the challenges that they've experienced as well. So
Thank you.
that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Erin. All right, let's move on to Shelby Satko. I'll remind you of the question.
Good morning.
What organization do you represent and why have you agreed to be on our panel?
Yeah, thank you, Anita. I'm Shelby Satko. I'm the Executive Director for the Washington State Rehabilitation Council. And the purpose of the Washington State Rehabilitation Council is to represent the voice of the DVR customer. And so we have a vested interest on behalf of our customers and helping to inform the decision-making process. And part of our responsibilities in that are that we review policies, programs, performance, and quality assurance for the work that DVR is doing. So yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to participate today. You're muted, Anita.
Thank you so much. Thank you for introducing yourself, Shelby. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Michael McKillop. I'm doing really terribly with the names today. So Michael, who are you representing and why have you agreed to be on our panel today?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Michael McKillop. I'm the Executive Director for the Department of Services for the Blind. My pronouns are he, him, and wearing a jacket today to look spiffy for this webinar. I'm here because I am a peer to the DVR director. Both DVR and DSB split the federal grant in the state of Washington around vocational rehabilitation services, and the Department of Services for the Blind has an emphasis and a focus on eligibility around visual disability. But we have to partner and we have to work together, and especially in this modern day and age of vocational rehabilitation and the federal understanding of the grant, we need to partner and collaborate even more deeply than we ever have in the past. And so it's really important that DVR and DSB have alignment, and we're able as a state to provide the highest quality vocational rehabilitation services.
Thank you so much, Michael. All right. So for those of you in our audience who may be engaging with our amazing ASL interpreter, Erin, Zoom allows you to pin the interpreter for yourself by selecting the interpretation icon at the bottom of your window, selecting sign language interpretation, and then adding Erin Mackey as your interpreter. I apologize for not saying that right out of the gate. We also have a Q&A function enabled. And although we will not be answering any of those questions posed there today, we will collect and address them to help inform our process of selection moving forward. So thank you again for taking this journey with us. We're now ready to move into our first category of questions. So in the category of skills and qualities of a successful DVR director, Tammy, we'll start with you on question 1. What are the essential skills and expertise you believe the next DVR director needs to have?
Well, I believe first and foremost, they need to have a strong communication skills. They need to be excellent with team building and working with everyone involved collaboratively, and to problem solve, and to come up with creative ways to assist the clientele and be able to adapt. Because when you work with people and people with disabilities, you need to be able to adapt. If something is not working well, you need to be able to say, okay, well, this is not working. Let's look at other areas that you would be successful in, and really focusing on that.
Thank you, Tammy. So what I hear you say is great communication skills and adaptability to change. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Right.
Yes, great. Thank you. And just to roll into this next question, can you describe the key qualities and characteristics you would like to see in the next DVR director? So just what their personal qualities and values might be.
Yes, along with that, they should be able to be confident in their ability and what their decisions, being able to make decisions, and being able to be empathetic and flexible, and with everyone involved, and being determined to see is really helping everyone involved to figure out the best strategy for their clients.
Thank you. So again, just to recap what I heard from you, we want confident decision makers, right?
Right,
And people who are empathetic in their strategies. Is that also correct?
correct.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I appreciate you answering these questions. I'd like to now invite Erin to answer the same two questions. So, what are the essential skills and experience you believe the next DVR director needs to have? And then, can you describe the key qualities and characteristics you would like to see in the next DVR director?
Yeah, thank you. So I would say the first things that come to mind as far as skills and experience would be that I feel that the next DVR director should have experience with DVR services at a ground level in some sort of capacity, whether that is, receiving them, providing them, managing them at kind of the local level, and really understanding, what it looks like for services to be delivered at the ground level. Um, I think the other piece that I see is really important for any position where someone is, you know, running or leading an organization that is related to disability in some way at a high level. I think it's important that that person has, uh, you know, significant experience working with folks with disabilities in some capacity, since I think that it's really easy to kind of default to, old ways of thinking and the ways that systems kind of tend to default to not including the voices of people that are impacted. So I think having a director that has, strong ties and strong connections to, people with disabilities is going to be important to make sure that those voices are included in how the organization is run. As far as qualities and characteristics, again, I think that, kind of reinforcing what I was just saying about making sure that the voices of folks with disabilities are included. I think that humility is a really important quality in someone to make sure that, I would want a leader that doesn't think that they have all the answers, because, again, when you're running an organization that is centered around disability, it's the voices of people with disabilities that should be lifted up by that person. So I would want someone who can demonstrate through their past experience that they have the ability to lift up those voices. Um, yeah, and I think, the other key thing that I see is someone who has community building skills in some way, since there are a lot of partners to DVR, whether it's WSRC or us at CEA with, providers and individuals that are receiving services, families, etc. There's so many partners involved that I think it's important that someone knows how to do the reaching out to all of those partners and bringing them all together at the table. You are muted if you're talking.
My goodness, I am so sorry. I keep muting myself. So thank you, Erin. Just another quick recap. I want to make sure that we've captured all of your great thoughts. So ground level experience with the community, significant experience working with those with disabilities so that we include the impacted voices in the decision making, humility, demonstrated ability to lift the voices of the client, and then community building skills. Did I capture pretty much everything you said?
Yes, the one thing I would just slightly alter with the first point is I think ground level experience specific to DVR services would be important. I mean, ground level experience in general, of course, but if it was specific to DVR, all the better.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarification. I appreciate you so much. All right. So next, we would like to ask Shelby these same two questions. What are the essential skills and experience you believe the next DVR director needs to have? And then can you also describe the key qualities and characteristics you would like to see in the next DVR director?
Yeah, thank you, Anita. Well, I want to emphasize all, some of the things that I wanted to highlight have already been highlighted. So just kind of, another tick next to some of those things. I really, the emphasis on, the knowledge and experience of vocational rehabilitation is essential. And how vocational rehabilitation is different, and that the focus of the work that we're here to do is on providing counseling and guidance versus just case management is critical. And so, with that also comes with, connection to the disability community. Whether they are an individual with lived experience, themselves, or they have, family members, or they're just engaged in the disability community is really vital. Being able to bring staff together and, build a team and help to improve morale and help foster a culture of empowerment and innovation is also critical. Clear communication, transparency, not only internally, but externally with, customers, business, and the business relationships with partners, contractors, is all critical as well. And the knowledge to discern, around policy, what's, policy guidance, and, where can we build in flexibility based in, what our national guidance says, which is pretty broad. And so, there is some work to do there. In terms of the key qualities and characteristics, that it's that kind of getting back to what I said earlier around that heart of VR. Like, what are we here to do? We're here to help lift people out of poverty, ensure that they have the support to live independent lives, and that heart needs to carry through to everything that the director and all of staff do, and that leadership is really important in that area. Someone who has a vision for the future and can make it happen. That as they build that vision for the future, engage staff in a meaningful way so that they have the buy-in to feel like they're part of that vision and the responsibility to help support it. That is also, building relationships with not only state partners, whether that's within DSHS or other state agencies, but national partnerships are critical. There is a vast network of, state administrators across the country that are always eager to partner. We also want to foster great relationships with our tribal leaders and tribal VR programs, as well as the community. And I think also has that ability to bridge the gap that can happen between administration and the field, and bring them together to really that's what makes us great, is working together. Like, we need administrators to do their work, but we also need to honor what's happening in the field. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. So you said a lot. I'm going to try and recap it, and it was all amazing. But we started off with absolutely knowledge and experience of what DVR does. Who do we serve? It's more than just case management. This is counseling guidance to help people get out of poverty and live the lives that they want to lead, right? Connection to the disabled community or the disability community through either current engagement or lived experience. The ability to build a team that has a good morale and wants to be doing this work, fostering empowerment in those people, and then helping those folks to innovate and to innovate themselves. Transparency in communication, not only within their teams, but out to all of our partners in government to government relationships, including our tribal partners, including our other government partners. Focusing on the heart of VR, the spirit of helping, having a vision for the future, being able to execute on that vision, and then supporting the partners to execute in that vision. And then again, finally, fostering those relationships we have with our partners, not only our internal partners, but our government to government partners. Did I recap that all right?
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Shelby. All right. And then last but not least, we are going to ask Michael the same two questions. What are the essential skills and experience you believe the next DVR director needs to have? And then can you please describe the key qualities and characteristics you would like to see in the next DVR director?
You bet, and thank you. What I love about hearing the other three panelists is that we're all aligned and we're saying things perhaps in different ways. And so what that, like you said, Shelby Tick, I think it really hones in that what we're saying is critical. For me, as a director of the Department of Services for the Blind, for me, what I believe is important for the DVR director is to have knowledge and experience of the disability movement, and ideally experience within the disability community itself. I mean, all our work has to be done in alignment and in context with the community that we serve. And so the director needs to be knowledgeable or gain that knowledge and very quickly. The director also needs to understand the intersectionality of disability and how that impacts all the work that DVR does. I mean, that's within disability itself. There's no one person, with a disability that is alike, but disability also crosses all demographics and community identities. And that's really critically important in providing equitable services through the agency and making sure that we're doing outreach as broadly as possible. Work and experience in reducing the environmental obstacles that can challenge an individual with a disability success in the workplace or community. I think that's helpful to have, to understand the attitudinal barriers, to understand the physical barriers, the digital barriers, and the barriers in transportation, and to show some experience in how you've worked to mitigate those barriers, and to understand it is the environmental obstacles. It's not the individual with the disability, but it's the world outside that's preventing that progress and that total inclusion and equity. And also need to genuinely hold the highest of expectations for the people that we work with, people with disabilities that are seeking skills or seeking a career path, and be able to convey those highest expectations to staff, that everyone in DVR holds the highest expectations of our customer base, that they're able to achieve what they want to within their ability and interest. And often the customer doesn't believe in themselves. And so often DVR or DSB, we need to hold that belief and bring that individual into the belief but that might also be with employers or CRPs, individuals that we're working with, holding that highest expectation of the capability of the people that can do anything. It's those environmental barriers. For me, as I heard Shelby say, experience and understanding the complexity and unique expectations within the Rehab Act of 1973, as amended by the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act of 2014. It's really critical in the director's position, because the director needs to navigate what's required and what's possible. And there are a lot of competing and external pressures and beliefs on what's possible or what's not possible. And the director needs to be super clear about what the law and the regulations don't allow, what the federal fiscal regulations don't allow, but do allow. And knowing those, a lot of decision making can come from that, because there's a lot of freedom in what vocational rehabilitation can do, but there are some stark areas that we cannot support or move towards. The director needs to understand that. The director needs to understand the core concepts of VR, what comprehensive individualized services means and how that's played out, what informed choices and how that plays out, the achieving a career pathways, what business as a dual customer means and how that plays out in the agency. Serving students as early as possible in coordinated services with state and local education authorities. The responsibilities of that director in regards to the control of funding, that funding, VR funding is for VR purposes only. And that can be a challenge when you're housed within a bigger agency, and keeping track and control of the funding limits and potential penalties and requirements. They're different for a federal program under the U.S. Department of Ed than from many other federal programs. And the director is responsible for maintaining the integrity of the VR program and its organizational placement. That's within the Rehab Act, that it is the director's control, and the director needs to understand what elements can only be done by DVR staff. So there's a lot of complexities that certainly people can learn, but there's a lot happening in the world of vocational rehabilitation. And so a new director needs to very quickly get knowledgeable about what their expectation, their role is within that federal set of laws and regulations, to be able to make the changes that need to happen, because there are a lot of changes that need to happen. I heard Shelby and I think other panelists talk about the director needing to understand the unique roles and work of VR staff. In order to feel heard, their work needs to be really understood by the director and valued by the director. And process change, you need to know what all the roles do and all the expectations. DVR and DSP have really unique job classes. No one else in the state enterprise utilizes many of the job classes that we do to do our work. Got to have that strong leadership skills that motivate, engage, and move people from how they've always done it to how it can be done. I'm talking a lot, I apologize. But one of the last skills that I see, there's so many skills, but that I want to highlight, is strong analysis and process improvement skills, and the ability to determine calculated risk. Really, vocational rehabilitation is at a crossroads nationwide, in Washington State as well, but nationwide. And the federal partners, I will say, are probably more conservative in their guidance around what we need to do to change to meet congressional expectations of higher performance and higher output and higher achievements. And I mean, federal partners haven't had leadership until the last year of each of the past presidential administrations. And so that may be one of the reasons for some conservativeness on the part of our federal partners. And it's really been the need and the push for local directors, local VR directors across the nation, to push the envelope to make the changes that need to happen to really shake us out of some of the bureaucratic processes that we've understood are necessary, and to take risk and take calculated risks to serve the customer better. And there's a lot of conversation happening, and it's really being driven by the director level at this point. And that director needs to understand, again, where they have the ability to take risk, where they need to, be arguing their case and justifying their case with the federal partners, and where to get the support when they're trying to radically alter processes, which this director will need to do, as I need to do as well, and other VR directors need to do. So that's a lot of skills and experience that I'm looking for. In terms of qualities, certainly customer focused towards the DVR customer, and understanding where they're coming from and what their needs are, and having those systems for getting that customer voice to help impact decision making, but also customer focused towards community partners, among other state agencies, and with business, being responsive, listening, incorporating feedback, and supporting other partners in the work that we do together. DVR cannot be an isolated agency working on its own. The Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act no longer allows for that, as we thought that at DSB we might be able to do. And the understanding of the federal grant no longer allows for any agency to go it alone. We really have to partner. Ability to understand and relate to staff, to identify the exceptional achievements and qualities that VR staff bring to the agency. The director really needs to know the work and quality in order to support those things that are good and must be maintained. But they're going to have to make a lot of change too. And that's a weird balance where when you talk about process improvement, you talk about changing things up, people can hear that everything they've done is bad. And that's not true. DVR staff are phenomenal, and they're caring, and they're thoughtful, and they've achieved some amazing things. And that DVR director needs to help the structures to achieve even more incredible success. And that's a balance in communication, but it's also really believing in your staff. Change management champion, as I said, change is the key word for vocational rehabilitation these days. And it's really hard on staff to change and change and change again. And it can be hard on customers when changes are made and things aren't perhaps communicated clearly to the customer, understanding why changes happen. Change needs to happen for the benefit of the customer. So that's the customer focus. And also needs to consider, how can we support that DVR staff person to do their job in a better way, a more effective way. So that needs to be the point of the change, but it can still be hard, even if you're getting something better now, or even if that better thing is out in the future. It's really hard to make the change, and the director will need to find ways to support change management. Belief in the mission of the agency, we talked a lot about that, but everyone at every job class in DVR needs to understand that they're connected to the mission of the agency. That is, getting employment for those individual with disabilities into life-sustaining careers, in earning good wages that they're able to sustain and keep that job. Everyone, no matter what their function is, whether they're fiscal, whether they're IT, they're connected to that mission. Everything that they do in their jobs is moving that mission forward. And they've got to really feel connected to that mission. And it's the director's job to help people understand how they are connected. And then collaboration is, I could go on for days, clearly, but DVR is a core partner in the workforce development system. DVR and DSB, we're no longer measured as separate agencies, but we're measured as a state. So DVR and DSB have a really much stronger need to collaborate, and that's been happening most recently, but it needs to continue to happen in a deep and continuous and genuine way. Building relationship with all the partners, whether that's, community partners, tribal VR, DSB, the customer, consumer organizations. We're not always going to align. We're going to have, DVR will have disagreement with partners because of where they need to go and what they need to do or what they need to focus on or what they need to prioritize. But that ability to build the relationship in good times really helps withstand when there are challenging times, and building trust and building partnership is the key to weathering some of those challenging times. So that is where I'm going to stop. Anita, I'm sorry for the notes that I asked you to take with all that.
No, I love it. I'm gonna just hit on a few of the areas that others didn't, just so that we're making sure that we get all of these beautiful high points here. So for me, what I heard that was new was understanding the intersectionality to provide equitable services to our clients. Every client is different, and they each have some sort of difference in ability that we have to address to make sure that they're getting the services that they need in the way they need them. Um, um, Making sure that we have high expectations for our clients and that our staff have that same high expectations for our clients, because our clients don't always believe in themselves and that they can achieve. So we need to believe in them, and then we need to communicate that belief in them so that they can, build that confidence, and make sure that they're achieving for themselves. Understanding the policy and the law and the regulation, what is possible within those policies, laws, and regulations, so that we can push the envelope to innovate. Understanding our funding requirements, right, and all of the policy that that goes along with those funding requirements. Maintaining the integrity of the program. And then getting into these characteristics, got to be a quick learner. Understand the uniqueness of each staff member and what they can bring, and then motivating them to engage and innovate. An ability to analyze and process and improve processes, and also assess risk and know where we can push and where we can't push, to make sure that we're calculating the best decisions for our clients that serve our clients the best. And then customer focus, listening, including the feedback of all of our partners, recognizing staff achievement meaningfully, right? So that we can keep good staff who are motivated to serve our clients, believing in them, believing in the mission of the agency, and then being able to strongly communicate that mission and hold everybody to that mission. And then genuine collaboration across all partnerships, so that we have built respectful relationships so that to sustain us through the tough times. What do you think, Michael? How did I do?
I feel heard. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you so much. All right. So that was our first set of questions. We did great there. We're going to move now into our second set of questions, which are the priority issues facing DVR. And so this time we're going to switch it up, and we're going to start with Michael. So here are the questions. What are some of the gaps you see in DVR services, and how should the next DVR director work to bridge those gaps? We're going to start with just this first question. And then if we have time, we'll circle back to the second question. Okay?
You bet. Thank you. I kind of boiled it down to three major things that are immediate needs. Recruitment and retention is an immediate need. It's a nationwide issue for vocational rehabilitation agencies. And in fact, services can't be provided with the necessary individualization and responsiveness for DVR customers if there are numerous vacant positions. It really hurts our services to customers if we don't have vacancies filled by skilled individuals. it's really disruptive to the DVR customer. It's probably one of the more challenging experiences if there's a revolving door in your counselor and you have to retell your story and you think you're making progress, and then you have to start again at ground zero, and then you have to start again at ground zero. As well, you have to look at the staff, and are they being overburdened? Are they taking on those cases, the vacant caseloads? And if they are, how are they able to give the dedication and attention that they really want to give to each of those individuals on the caseload? So that's a challenge. It's a challenge statewide, it's a challenge nationwide. The director needs to think about, needs to be able to identify what motivates good staff to stay, and what as director am I able to put in to keep those good people here? How do I recruit motivated applicants? Where do I go to build the resource and grow amazing counselors and bring them on board and onboard them and train them in ways? And how can leadership impact that? So it's a huge question that so many agencies are dealing with, but critical. Getting a handle on pre-employment transition services, which is a relatively new thing. And I think that it was difficult for DVR to imagine how to braid working with students as young as age 14 with the just kind of traditional vocational rehabilitation processes. And I promise you, the direction from the federal partners was not super clear, confusing at best, and maybe continues to be around these services. But it's really complex. And there's a lot of things you can and can't do with pre-employment transition services, and it's a bit tight in the regulation around what's possible. And when you do things that aren't allowed or allocable within that grant, there are problems. There are penalties, and Washington State is kind of facing some of those penalties now around spending all those pre-employment transition service dollars. I think that DVR has a better vision of where they need to take that pre-employment transition program. It's going to take really strong leadership to facilitate that and to make it happen. And it needs to happen quickly because we are under the wire for, as a state, to be sure that we're providing full pre-employment transition services. Otherwise, again, there are penalties. And then performance measures. Washington State, unfortunately, is the only state or territory out of 52 states and territories to not pass a performance measure. And I'm saying Washington State because DSP and DVR are now really considered. We're not, our performance is not considered separately as it used to be. As of last year, the state is responsible for the grant. And so DVR and DSB are equally responsible for any of the performance measures. And so we've got to really work together and collaborate. And I'm really grateful to the interim director for creating systems of deep and active collaboration, but that needs to continue. It cannot be let go. We cannot go it alone as the blind agency and the general agency. We have to work together and continue that. So, I mean, the performance measures make sure that the ratio of those who employed 6 and 12 months from now, our credential attainment, our the indicators for achieving educational goals, our match requirements for the grant, the potential and maintenance of effort penalties, pre-employment transition services, all those have to be considered as a state, not as DSB or DVR, but as a state. So those are the three things that I'm seeing immediately need a director's attention, understanding, and guidance to help facilitate.
Thank you. And I'm not going to recap this round just to make sure we get everyone in. But just FYI, this is being recorded. If anybody wants this recording, they can reach out to the DVR communications team after and get a copy of this recording. So I'd like to, and thank you so much, Michael. Great answers. I'd like us to move on to Aaron next. Aaron, how would you answer this first question? What are some of the gaps you see in DVR services, and how should the next DVR director work to bridge those gaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will start with the here and now. And I think the kind of biggest issue that I see right now that needs immediate addressing would be figuring out waves and how that implementation is rolling out. I happened to run into some of the staff from the Bellingham DVR office yesterday because I went to one of our Dan Thompson rallies that Wise is putting on. And just from hearing kind of anecdotal on the ground experience, it sounds like, you know, the rollout of how Waves has happened is preventing a lot of in-person interaction with customers and really slowing things down. And to me, from a ground level perspective, it seems like that's the #1 issue getting in the way of providing effective and timely DVR services. So I think, someone who can come in and help, DVR learn why and how things didn't go to plan and come up with some sort of solution to make it function. And I don't claim to know what the answer to that is, but that to me, I think is the most pressing issue that I see. Kind of expanding out from the very here and now, I think the system has become overly complex in the last 10 years. And so I think someone who can come in and help bring people together to figure out how we can make a system that is designed for the people receiving services and, is designed in a way that is understandable by anyone of any ability. I think when it comes to any sort of disability services, the goal that I always want to keep in mind is that anyone of any ability could walk in the door alone and be able to access services and understand what's going on. And I think we need a DVR director who can bring together people from the top and ground level staff and people receiving services to figure out what that looks like and make sure that there's buy-in from all of those different people that I mentioned. And along the same lines, I do think that sometimes the system, the way it's currently set up, can be a little too rigid as well. So I think, along with partnering with all of those people to figure out how to kind of simplify the system is to also make sure that there is some flexibility as well to meet people where they're at, since like was mentioned, each individual person is different. There are so many different intersectional needs that people have that it's important that the system offers flexibility at the ground level to kind of meet the needs of different people. And then the other thing that I'll say, and I'll end with this, is just I think that some of the partnerships with other entities could use some support. I think particularly when it comes to school districts and OSPI, but counties, DDA. I think that there's always room for improvement when it comes to partnerships with these other entities. So someone who can really support from the highest level other DVR staff to develop these relationships. So someone who really understands the value of those partnerships and how to, make that happen. So.
Thank you, Aaron. I love that we're getting thumbs up. Thank you for the reactions. All right. So Tammy, I'd like to invite you to also answer this question. What are some of the gaps you see in DVR services, and how should the next DVR director work to bridge those gaps?
Thank you. Well, Aaron and Michael said a lot already. As a consumer of DVR, though, there are a lot of issues around different DVR counselors providing more of a person-centered plan and are really listening to the consumer and what their needs are. And but that is not across the board. We need to have the same standards, the same principles across the board, so that if you are transferred to a different counselor, that they will provide the same service that your other county provides. Let's say you moved out of King County and went to a rural area, and they don't provide the same services, or they don't listen to the person-centered planning that you need. We need a director that will have the same standards across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. And I just want to make sure that everyone has heard what you said. So you see gaps in person-centered services and that there is not the same high standard across the entire program delivery. And you want to make sure that our new director fosters that kind of high standard no matter where you are getting services in the state of Washington. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Tammy. All right. And lastly, Shelby, please, I'd like to invite you to answer this question. What are some of the gaps you see in DVR services, and how should the next DVR director work to bridge those gaps?
Yeah, thank you. A lot of the notes that I had have been covered, so I don't want to, but there might be a couple of things just worth re-emphasizing is that around that recruitment and retention of staff, counselor reassignment impacts, a customer and the life of their case substantially. In the customer satisfaction survey that we administer, that's probably, one of the top 3 points of feedback is that I've had multiple counselors, in the time that someone's been in service. And sometimes that can just be like a year, customers can be in services up to 2 years. So, or so on average. And so, part of that too, is how do you bridge that gap? Really advocate for competitive wages for DVR staff. They are, they're far under competitive wage. So I think somebody who really understands how to navigate those systems within state government to ensure that staff get what they need, and so they feel like they can stay because it's the work that they want to do, and not like that they have to make a decision to go somewhere else. The impact on customers is substantial, and that affects their outcomes as well. So it's absolutely critical, and gets to some of the things that Michael was saying about, we're not meeting performance standards. And so that certainly impacts that. I think the emphasis on, we're here to help people, lift people out of poverty. And so part of some of the tools that we have is for to support customers in post-secondary education. And we really need to be able to, a director that can lead the field and, policy planning and performance supports to help, and training to help counselors build the skills that they need to do quality vocational assessment and build plans that support a customer's informed choice, and that they get the support that they need to achieve their goal. So I'll leave it at that. I've got some more, but in case there's time for some more questions, because there's, yeah. So
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shelby. So we actually don't have time for more questions, but I do urge you, panelists and folks who are in the audience, please, please, please email us any other additional information, questions, ideas that you have. You can email that to dvrcommunications@dshs.wa.gov. And if you have joined as an audience member today, or if you have joined as a panelist, I will send a follow-up email to you. If you signed in with your email through Zoom, I will send an email with that email address connected to it so you can give us more information. We're really dedicated and determined to find the best possible DVR director in partnership with all of you so that we can get to these, filling these gaps that you have recognized and building these relationships that you have asked for. So thank you again for joining us today. Special thanks to our volunteer panelists, Tammy Bowen, Erin Dixon, Shelby Satko, and Micah McCallop. And our ASL interpreter, Aaron, of course. If you added a question to the Q&A, those will be addressed ahead of the interviews. And if you would like to offer additional information, again, please email dvrcommunications@dshs.wa.gov. And on behalf of DSHS, I hope you all have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you.